It is Friday, September 25th, 2020. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And it was, unfortunately, a no jujitsu, get your ass kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Friday. I was out on the lake yesterday, and man, I slipped on some mud and some rocks and cut the shit out of my legs. So, unfortunately, I'm going to have to wait until probably Monday until I get back out on the mat, because it was one of those situations where I'm like, should I go to the hospital now and leave the lake, or should I fish for a couple more hours and then go to the hospital? and I chose the latter. I was out there with a friend of mine, and I didn't want to leave the lake. I didn't get enough opportunities this summer to get out, and I wanted to spend a little more time on the water. And it was just a cut, and it wasn't a really bad cut. So, I mean, when I say it wasn't really bad, I mean I wasn't like bleeding out or anything via this cut. Didn't have to apply a tourniquet or anything like that. But I know it was making my fishing partner, a little bit uneasy, because he's one of those guys that will fish until the end of the day, and he's like, "Yeah, I think I've had enough for the day." And he kept looking back at me, and I'm sure he was like looking at the lake, going, I wonder when he's going to want to leave. I wonder when he's going to want to go to the hospital over this. But anyway, unfortunately, I did not go to Jiu-Jitsu today, and so I have nothing to deliver on that front. It's funny, because it's like I get to this certain level, where I'm feeling confident, and I even feel like a little bit guilty for the type of performance I give during sparring or something like that. Just too aggressive or whatever. And then all of a sudden something like this will happen where, I'll be training and get injured, or, I'll be out doing something else and get injured or whatever, and have to take a step back. So I start to wonder sometimes if I'm ever going to get to my black belt, just because I'm riding at this edge where I keep getting injured. I know I'm making forward progress. So, like I said, I hadn't been doing as much sparring as I should, and I definitely should be. It's become kind of evident to me that my not sparring is kind of a blockage, because that message of jiu-jitsu has to be communicated through us, to one another. It's part of the learning process. And so, like I said, I was feeling like it was a blockage, not just for myself, but for my teammates as well. And, when I was rolling with the gentleman the other day, I really wasn't focused on trying to, out-strength him. I was just taking the opportunities as they were appearing to me. And, some of them I reacted a little bit slowly to, and I probably could have set up a little better. But I don't know that I ever felt that dominant over a person bigger than me, and he was actually he had a few pounds on me. But anyway, the dominance I had over him, it was strange in that I could feel that he was large, and I could feel that he was strong, but I wasn't applying real strength against him. It's like I would just do core stuff, hold my arms in. And there was a couple things that he did that I was kind of disappointed in, honestly. And one of them was that he wouldn't do any frames, or he wasn't doing frames, and it's a little difficult in the position that I had him in, but really all he had to do was turn up on his side and put a frame in between us, and the Kimura threat wouldn't be there, and he would still be putting some distance between me and him. But I don't know. I think that's just my perspective. I mean, for all I know, he's only been doing it for 2 months or 3 months or something like that, and so he's just not looking for it. But I get the feeling that it might be something that, because I haven't been sparring, other people aren't looking for it, and other people aren't doing it, and so it's one of those things where it's kind of knotted up in that if I were sparring with other people more, that they would be looking for that kind of stuff. It's like, oh shit, what's this? And I felt like he lacked a lot of context for the stuff that I was doing. But again, it could be that he's just started in jiu-jitsu, and here I am, I'm fucking 4-year training, and feeling like I'm all dominant and shit because I pwned this guy. But I don't know. It was just funny to me because he commented that normally he tries not to use his strength, but he doesn't really have a choice with me, or he didn't have a choice with me. And it's like, it was funny because when he did start applying some strength, I completely relaxed. There was this point where he was starting to get a little bit frustrated because he would sit up and he would get back on his haunches, but I wouldn't disengage my full guard, and so between pulling him back towards me with my legs and pulling myself up just a little bit, I was able to hook his neck and bring him back down again. And I did that for I think 3 or 4 times, and after that he started getting a little frustrated, and so I disengaged my legs, and I think I could have swept him at that point, but I opted to try and go for an inverted armbar, and that was something that I really feel like I should have got that, but I didn't have his forearm up high enough, or his elbow up high enough, and so I couldn't secure him with my legs and sink it in. But so that was one of those things where it's like I could feel that it wasn't there 100%, so rather than sit there and hold it, I just disengaged the leg that I was putting around his head and put him back in guard rather than fully letting him out. And I don't know, I probably should have done a sweep at that point. Just put my foot on his knee, push it down, and then get an underhook on the other side and take him on over. But anyway, it was a good roll, and but like I said, I felt guilty for the differential. I gotta hunt down Chemo and let him beat up on me or something. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down with some music, and we're gonna start off with some body count. As far as material goes, I'm kind of all over the place today. I don't know, my head is just slightly off from from a little emergency yesterday, so let's go with Colors 2020 by Body Count, First Dance, here on Coin Metal. Oh, I was gonna let it run. It's one of my very favorite songs there, Exodus, Verbal Razors. But, we do have actual talk on this show, and so here we are again. Anyway, as far as what we're going to get into, I was doing a little bit of tooling around on the interwebs, and I may run into a tab or two that I was interested in covering today, but there was something else that caught my eye, and I wanted to get into this one. If I can find the tab for it. Get rid of that. Man, that. Can you believe that shit, fucking Joe Rogan? That'd be like somebody buying out this show and then expecting me to say something that I didn't believe or they thought was real, or I don't. No. No. Not gonna do it. Anyway, I'm trying to find the damn thing. Oh, that was another one. Home invasions apparently are on the rise in San Francisco. It's kind of funny seeing as they were talking about defund the police and all that shit. But there was something I was trying to find about KuCoin here. Apparently they'd had some sort of hack, and trying to find the exact one. Where the hell did I put that tab? No, it's not that one. It's Craig Wright. And no, it's not it. I had the damn thing here a moment ago. Let's see. It's no Iran, CFTC, no. Voting tokens, cost of living, no. Don't tell me I've fucking closed it already. Well, hell. I had this article all set up, and I'm trying to find it now. Apparently, I probably closed the fucking tab mistakenly. And I could go back and do all that. I just want to make sure I don't have the thing open. No. Alright. Let's check this really quick. Maybe I actually have the story on here. KuCoin hack. Apparently I have to look it up again. Yeah, here we go. And this one's on decrypt.co. Cryptocurrency exchange KuCoin hacked. And this is by Jeff Benson. And this is authored September 25th, 2020. So yes, penis. KuCoin, which touts itself as, quote, the most advanced and secure cryptocurrency exchange to buy and sell Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Tron, USDT, Neo, XRP, KCS, and more, has been hacked, and $150 million in funds may be gone. The company confirmed late on September 25th, UTC time, quote, Bitcoin, ERC20, and other tokens in KuCoin's hot wallets were transferred out of the exchange. It maintains that while its hot wallets were hit, its cold wallets are safe. Moreover, it claimed in its announcement, quote, if any user fund is affected by this incident, it will be covered completely by KuCoin and our insurance fund. The trouble started when users started complaining about withdrawal issues. Initially, KuCoin's admin team seemed to maintain that it was experiencing a systems issue. At least one admin messaged on KuCoin's Telegram channel indicated that users should not withdraw or deposit funds, quote, given the situation. It claimed that, quote, transactions are simply pending. It then became apparent about $150 million worth of tokens had been moved to a different address. The address received transactions of 11,484 Ether, worth approximately $4 million, plus $146 million in transactions of other tokens. Many are little known, such as Gladius, Chroma, Ocean Token, and Hawala, but there were also Maker, OMG, and Wi-Fi tokens in the mix. Adding to the confusion, crypto data company CryptoQuant noticed that a large amount of Bitcoin left the KuCoin wallets, quickly then stopped. Quote, since 2000 UTC on September 25th, it tweeted, the outflow has continuously been zero. According to CryptoQuant CEO Ki-Young Ju, that spike is a telltale sign of a hack. If it were merely a systems issue, outflows would go straight to zero without a spike. KuCoin CEO Johnny Liu is holding a live stream at 4:30 UTC on September 26th to provide more details. According to the data from Crypto Market Cap, KuCoin, based in Singapore, is the 16th most popular crypto spot exchange when taking into account trading activity, traffic, and volume. It is responsible for $112 million in volume over the last 24 hours. That's pretty impressive. Anyway, I wanted to see if I can find more on that. And I dug a little bit deeper. Here we go. And this is on KuCoin's site. KuCoin Security Incident Update. And this is September 25th, 2020. And by KuCoin. Dear KuCoin users, we detected some large withdrawals since September 26, 2020 at 3:05:37 UTC plus 8. According to the latest internal security audit report, part of Bitcoin, ERC20, and other tokens in KuCoin's hot wallets were transferred out of the exchange, which contain few parts of our total assets holdings. The assets in our cold wallets are safe and unharmed, and hot wallets have been redeployed. We are locating the reason for the incident and will keep you updated once it's confirmed. Please rest assured that if any user fund is affected by the incident, it will be covered completely by KuCoin and our insurance fund. To ensure the security of users' assets, we will conduct a thorough security review. The deposit and withdrawal service will be suspended during the period. We will restore the service gradually after ensuring a safe state. We will keep you updated. As, quote, the People's Exchange, we will take full responsibility and maintain transparency. To keep you updated regarding the latest updates, our CEO Johnny Liu will update more details through a live stream at 12:30 UTC plus 8, September 26th, 2020. And I guess submit your questions there. Yeah, so apparently they were hacked. And it's something that happens. You know, I mean, it's part of the issue of becoming an exchange like this, is that especially if you're the type of exchange that is holding customers' funds for them as a trusted third party, you endure the risk that somebody is going to hack into your shit and steal yours or your customers' funds. It comes with the territory, you know, and I doubt anybody will ever be 100% immune to it if they're undertaking this as their job, you know. Anyway, and just to enunciate a little further the liabilities that happen, or the issues that happen when there are hacks and whatnot, I got this other article here on decrypt.co. Maker votes to not compensate Black Thursday victims. And this is by The Defiant. Who's The Defiant? I'm going to check and verify something here. The Defiant is a content platform composed of daily newsletter and weekly podcast, blah, blah, blah. So I guess it's by Camilla Russo? So no penis. At least that's what I'm getting on first blush here. I'm sure it could be something different. I don't know. Anyway, let's get back to this. Maker votes, blah, blah, blah. Maker votes not to compensate Black Thursday victims. MakerDAO traders who had their collateral wiped out during DeFi's so-called Black Thursday received bad news from the protocol's decentralized court this week. They won't be getting a penny or GUI back. Whatever a GUI is. Their only hope now lies in traditional/centralized courts. On March 12th, DeFi experienced its worst day on record as prices tanked more than 50%. Amidst the crash, projects offering leverage were hit the hardest. In particular, MakerDAO, with its vault owner and its vault owners using Ethereum as collateral to mint DAI, were wiped out with mass liquidations as collateral ratios quickly dropped below the 150% minimum threshold. 100% loss. Instead of the collateral being liquidated for a 13% haircut, the system resulted in a shortage of keepers or actors who purchase collateral at a discount to collateralize the system, which allow one actor to purchase $6 million worth of Ethereum for just one DAI. Wow. In the wake of this event, hundreds of vault owners lost 100% of their collateral, leaving the system with $2.5 million in bad debt. Maker quickly recovered by hosting a series of auctions where MKR was minted and sold for DAI to recapitalize the system. Since Black Thursday, a select few victims have been working on a class action lawsuit to compensate those affected by faulty keeper auctions. On Tuesday, the hopes of those pleas to be resolved through decentralized governance came to a close with less than ideal outcomes. While a discussion with the Maker Foundation is still ongoing, MKR holders will not be reimbursed losses through newly minted tokens. Compensation plan. Quote, vaults that were liquidated at auction or self-liquidated their positions between 3/12/2020 12 UTC and 3/13/2020 at 1340 UTC will be considered for compensation. And there's a source to that. And we'll go to that later. While the details of the plan have changed over time, the latest proposal suggested that new MKR would be minted and distributed to vault owners who could prove they were wrongfully liquidated for 100% of their collateral. Outlined in the latest forum post, the amount of MKR to be minted was to be put to a poll, with the winning result moving to an executive vote to ratify the decision. 0% compensation won. Of the 10 options available, 0 compensation won with 65% in favor, while the most popular option at almost 17.6% was for 18% compensation. Vote breakdown. Let's see. And I gotta wonder if the votes could have been gamed on that. It's important to note that this decision was not made by Maker Foundation, rather by MKR holders, who stood to be diluted if the options to compensate vault owners were passed. There was no hack or exploit, and this compensation was a sign that the MakerDAO community recognized that keeper auctions did not pan out as intended. Quote, while the vault compensation plan didn't pass, the ability of a protocol to consider actions beyond its core code is already kind of revolutionary. Vault compensation lead Monet Supply told The Defiant, quote, I'm optimistic for the future of decentralized governance. Vote with their feet. Still, some vault owners aren't as sanguine, with a few of them criticizing the poll was decided by a few large holders and questioning the validity of this week's vote after a separate poll showed most were in favor of compensation. Quote, a lawsuit or not, people will vote with their feet if there is no trust. Vault owner who goes by the name of Itzgus in the forum wrote, quote, people should take note and be wary of future interaction with Maker, as Maker has proven to go against its own decisions. For MKR holders, the common theme appears to be know the risks of using leverage. DeFi's poster child is going through a difficult time in terms of community support at a time when it continues to slide in DeFi's Pulse, TVL leaderboard, and as MKR lagged other DeFi tokens, which went parabolic over the summer, even as DAI supply is at an all-time high. And apparently this was by Cooper Turley. And let's see, this story was written and edited by our friends at the Defiant. It also appeared in its daily email, content platform, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So, yeah. That's interesting. I'm curious as to, like, the voting mechanism. You know, and who holds, like, who determines the status of the vote. Is it one big stakeholder, or maybe a couple big stakeholders? And it seems to always pan out that way, that no matter what, you always have a one or two very, very large entities within the pool of liquidity providers, and they're usually the ones that get the say over the stake. And they say, well, you know, we're going to lose money if we do it that way, so we're not going to do it that way. I mean, there's really not much you can do on that front. But I would need to know more about the complexities behind what exactly happened here. And I don't really recall the. Let's see here, the Black Thursday. Black Thursday, crypto, MakerDAO, stablecoin issue block. Okay, here we go. I wonder how this one got by me. I don't know that it did. We probably actually covered this. But just for reference, we're going to go through this really quick. It's a article off of Coindesk.com. Mempool manipulation enabled theft of $8 million in MakerDAO collateral on Black Thursday report. And this is authored on July 22nd, 2020 at 1841 UTC. And it was by Brady Dale, so yes, penis. The takeaway, and we're not going to go through the bullet points. Oh, is this one of those? Okay, it's not. I've seen a few articles that are just nothing but bullet points. It always throws me off. Anyway, so here it goes. A clever hustle in Ethereum's mempools enabled attackers to steal $8.3 million from MakerDAO users on Black Thursday, according to research published on Wednesday. To recap, the price of Ethereum plummeted on March 12th, and the Ethereum network was congested by a flood of attempted transactions. As investors fled to fiat, Ethereum's price sunk low enough to trigger liquidations of the collateral held on the MakerDAO lending platform. These programmatic liquidations enabled attackers to walk away with $8.3 million in Ethereum for free, shorting borrowers and MakerDAO itself. The congestion, though, was key and completely intentional, according to Block Native, a company focused on studying action in blockchain mempools. The new research suggests that March's Black Swan event for Ethereum may have actually been a sophisticated plan to cash in on a global sell-off fueled by COVID-19 concerns. Quote, the entire affair meant the attackers were able to achieve over 1,000 zero-bid auctions and collect that underlying value with almost no out-of-pocket expense, Block Native CEO Matt Cutler told CoinDesk in an interview. Mempool manipulation. At the heart of Block Native's work is mempools, the temporary storage on every Ethereum node where transactions wait to get mined and finalized. In mid-March, mempools got congested with useless transactions on purpose, Block Native said, as part of a plan to win zero-bid auctions for Ethereum on MakerDAO under just these conditions. Indeed, the Maker Foundation wrote as much in its post-mortem published in April. Quote, network congestion and high gas prices caused transaction delays and, in many cases, failures. Those issues, combined with the unprecedented drop in the value of assets, caught Maker Vault owners, keepers, and liquidity pools off guard. The Maker Foundation referred CoinDesk to the above blog post and declined to comment further on the story. Obviously, many Ethereum users will wonder whether the drop in Ethereum price itself was somehow manufactured, but that question is outside the scope of Block Native's investigation. The attackers could have been poised to opportunistically take advantage of a dramatic drop in Ethereum's price. Whether the price drop itself was manufactured remains unknown. You know what? They could just as easily, if they were working in collusion with an exchange, say Bitfinex, they could have tanked Ethereum's price versus USDT by printing up a bunch of them and oddly enough, probably doing the transactions for it on Ethereum's blockchain. And, just crank out a whole bunch of USDT and then sell them against Ethereum at a loss at one point, and then at a profit at a later point, where they're taking the Ethereum down just so that they can nick this $8.3 million in transfer straight from the liquidity providers, or collateral providers in this case. Continuing on. That said, Block Native did find what appears to be a March 8th test run of the attack's mechanics, a fact the research firm doesn't describe in its report. Quote, it's an interesting coincidence that the test and the attack were within just 4 days of each other, Cutler told CoinDesk, but we don't have any evidence that this is anything other than opportunistic. Either way, the attackers took advantage of some very subtle insights about both Ethereum and MakerDAO. Quote, they basically exploited some techniques that had never been seen before, Cutler said. More on those techniques later. First, we need to cover a few basics about MakerDAO and Ethereum. MakerDAO basics. MakerDAO is known as the creator of DAI, a decentralized stablecoin currently beloved by yield farmers. DAI is created with debt. Users put Ethereum or other crypto assets up as collateral on the Maker platform to then withdraw a portion of the value of those assets in the form of brand new DAI. To get back their collateral, users must repay the DAI they borrowed plus whatever interest the loan is accrued. In MakerDAO parlance, this is the, quote, stability fee, but it is just a variable interest rate. MakerDAO enforces the DAI price by liquidating collateral if its value falls below the minimum threshold to maintain proper collateralization. For Ethereum, that's 150%, but most users put in a lot more Ethereum than the minimum. So if Ethereum were at $200 and the user posted 1 Ethereum to borrow 100 DAI, they won't get liquidated unless Ethereum drops below $150. But on Black Thursday, Ethereum's price fell to almost $100 from $193, so that triggered a lot of liquidations. Liquidations can be done by anyone, by the way, with bots called, quote, keepers. MakerDAO itself runs a keeper, but a few other unknown entities do as well. Keepers win liquidations through an auction described step by step in plain language by CoinList, which we may actually go into at another point, maybe this evening. So different keepers bid to close the loan, and on Black Thursday, those auctions only lasted 10 minutes, or a few dozen Ethereum blocks. The idea is these auctions should, and normally have, resulted in users getting back their collateral minus however much they owed, plus the stability fee and the liquidation fee. It's the last part that hurts. But that's not what happened this time. Borrowers got nothing, and in fact, MakerDAO got paid back much too little DAI, and the whole system was under-collateralized. Ethereum basics. Ethereum is a blockchain, which means it's always gathering up transactions, and miners are competing to compose blocks of those transactions, encrypt them, break the encryption, and then prove their work to the rest of the miners to win a block reward. Transactions aren't real until they are in a mined block, and there are usually more transactions out there waiting to get into a block than there is room for more transactions. Those delayed transactions wait in what's called the mempool. Mempools are one of those things that most people don't really need to think about most of the time, except they become really important when situations get urgent, like when the price of Ethereum is falling off a cliff. Quote, "When you most need to be sure that things are happening in an orderly fashion," Cutler said, "is when things are least reliable." This is the whole point of Block Native. The firm keeps a detailed account of mempools all over the world, studying what it calls, quote, "value in motion." Block Native helps its customers decide if they need to be more aggressive in things like gas payments. Oh, shit. When things are going crazy. Mempool data is, quote, "value in motion." Finalized blockchain data is value at rest. Crucially, miners cannot process a new transaction if the prior transaction hasn't gone through. Every transaction on Ethereum from a wallet gets a number, and 515 won't go through if 514 hasn't. This is tracked by the transaction, quote, nonce in Ethereum speak. This sequential reality turns out to be the key to the attack. What Block Native found. Block Native has been keeping mempool data for Ethereum going back to early 2018, also its testnets, and for the Bitcoin network as well. The firm decided to take a look at the mempool data to see what happened around March 12th. Block Native found that an unusually high portion of the mempool was clogged by transactions with very low gas prices on them. Usually this portion isn't very high because users actually want their transactions to go through, so they will monitor gas prices and set them at levels that are likely to get picked up by a miner. But that's not what was happening on March 12th. There were loads of transactions in the pool that had low gas prices on them. Too many. This allowed the attackers to submit, quote, 0 bids in MakerDAO's collateral auctions with strong gas prices attached, knowing full well that they could likely win those auctions against well-intentioned keeper bots who couldn't get their bids through. Block Native describes something called hammer bots. These would be bots designed to craft transactions precisely for the purpose of clogging the mempool. Quote, "The bots hammered the mempool with transactions that were never intended to be finalized. These hammer bots consumed mempool resources by issuing extremely high rates of replacement transactions without any corresponding increase in gas," Block Native wrote in its blog. These transactions were additionally designed with a lot of pointless operations that could be shifted and changed easily to vary the hash, but appeared to serve no real purpose. Quote, "These particular transactions, they would be particularly good at consuming mempool resources," Chris Mazel, a block native co-founder, told CoinDesk. Cascading problems. That's the first problem. Congestion made it hard for borrowers on MakerDAO to add more collateral and made it hard for keepers to get bids through. Quote, "This resulted in anomalous mempool conditions which would ultimately favor certain transactions," the Block Native Post reports. But there was another crucial observation the attackers appear to have made about keepers. They didn't seem to be checking to see if transactions were getting through. Quote, "When you do transactions on an account or an address on Ethereum, they have to be ordered," Maisel said. As we wrote above, if a nonce is missing in a blockchain's record, miners can't take later transactions until one with the prior nonce comes through. So, a later transaction will get stuck, even if it has a very high gas price attached, until the prior one goes through. This had a bizarre upshot. From the Block Native Post, quote, "When viewed in aggregate, even though the volume of transactions entering the mempool increased dramatically, the gas price of a significant portion of the mempool collapsed to an artificially low value. In short, the attackers knew keepers would fail to get their first bids through, and it would result in subsequent bids, probabilistically, in Cutter's words, getting stuck. And it worked often enough. The open source code in MakerDAO published for keeper bots didn't have measures to check for stuck transactions. This created a potential gap that allowed the attacker to submit a bid with a strong gas price but a 0 DAI bid for the collateral, starting that short 10-minute auction clock ticking. Quote, "While automated trading systems are often designed to programmatically increase the gas price of transactions, many such trading systems do not handle nonce gaps well, if at all," the Block Native Post warns. In 1,462 cases, the keepers failed to notice that their bids were getting stuck in the mempools. The attackers won the bid, stealing millions of dollars in Ethereum and nearly forcing an emergency shutdown on MakerDAO. MakerDAO has since extended the auction time to 6 hours. Block Native has opened its data set of mempool activity for members of the community to study further. The blog post notes, quote, "The mempool is a critical yet ephemeral and often overlooked element of the blockchain ecosystem. As such, mempools may present many unknown unknowns to builders and users alike." In this case, however, the attackers studied MakerDAO's keeper code and realized it was possible to know what the real keepers didn't. Indeed. So yeah, that's an interesting little attack there. And you would have to think that, in my mind anyway, that the answer to this is really, really simple. And that is to minimize the utilization of the mempool. And the way you do that is by making the blocks that you're processing big enough that you don't have to worry about a transaction sitting around in the mempool long enough to get perverted. And I mean, really, these people want to place trust in shit. And it seems to me that this is kind of a byproduct of Ethereum's developers trying to push everybody to a proof of stake system as opposed to a proof of work system. And there are like some side efforts at that, and in my mind they're going to end up failing. But the thing of it is that it's inhibiting Ethereum development as a proof-of-work coin. And they are going to have to fix this shit really quick, because otherwise they're going to continue to lose liquidity in this manner. You know, ERC20 tokens are bad enough, but if the governance systems can be perverted like this and the mempools can be manipulated like this, they're just going to be costing people liquidity and collateral, that is. You know, it all depends on context. But yeah, this is the kind of thing that I expect to also happen with Bitcoin. And we haven't seen as much of it happen on Bitcoin only because the block time on Bitcoin is 10 minutes as opposed to, I think it's like 30 seconds on Ethereum. So, you know, we don't see the same rapidity because the time interval for a profitable attack is a lot shorter on Ethereum versus Bitcoin. You know, I mean, if you were to do something like this on Bitcoin, it would take you probably a week or so to be building up enough liquidity or whatever to make it worth happening. But yeah, it always comes back to incentives, and like I said, the way to drive down the incentive on that is to increase the number of transactions that you're processing per block interval, which would mean expanding the block space, which would mean increasing the block size limit, assuming of course there actually is one on Ethereum. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down with some music, and I want to go with some Cavalier Conspiracy, Inflicted, here on Coin Metal. And that was Anthrax with Blood. And so, picking up where we left off, I'd been doing some digging around, and of course I found 1,000,000,001 other articles about what we were talking about, and I got a little bit too deep into it. I'm all the way back to all the compensation plans for the victims of the MakerDAO compensation, the compensation for them. Anyway, I dug around a bit further and I found a much more recent article about that. I'm trying to find it now. No, this isn't it. Damn it, Jim. Did it again. I lost my damn article. No. Here we go. And so this one's on Cointelegraph.com, and it's by Andriy Shevchenko. So yes, penis. Did a class action suit play a role in Maker's refusal to compensate March crash victims? After multiple rounds of voting and heated discussion, the final vote to compensate losses for Maker users that were liquidated, quote, unfairly during the March crash failed. About 52,500 Maker voted against any compensation, which accounted for 65% of the total votes. This amounts to about 8% of the total Maker supply, which some commenters took as a sign of low turnout. Nevertheless, Maker community member Monet Supply, who was part of the working group designing the compensation proposal, told Cointelegraph that this was, quote, fairly high for a poll vote. He said that polls normally get commitments of less than 40,000 tokens. The results of the vote were somewhat surprising, as a similar poll held just 3 weeks after the crash had the opposite result. 65,000 MKR accounting to 65,000 of the votes expressed favorably for compensation. While another poll with lower participation had a negative result, the working group was still motivated to continue due to the first poll. Monet Supply cited 3 main reasons why, according to them, the vote has failed. The first is a matter of principle. Should the vault holders be compensated at all? Quote, good arguments could be made for or against, they said. The discussion can be boiled down to two lines of thought. One maintains that even if it was not a technical hack, the system still worked imperfectly and the risks were not properly disclosed, so the victims should be compensated. The other view contends that Maker provides no guarantees on the return of the collateral, as the auction system is based on market incentives. If the market is not efficient at some point, the Maker community should not be responsible for that. While Monet Supply did not express an opinion, they believe that some may have misunderstood the liquidation system. Quote, I think vaults had unrealistic expectations of how much they would be getting back in a Black Swan event. Maker has a 1-hour oracle delay, which benefits vaults by letting them save their vault by deleveraging. But the flip side is, if the price is falling during that hour, once the vault does finally get liquidated, the price is lower, so the vault gets less collateral back. Still, even for those who were in favor of repaying the vault, Monet Supply believes that two other arguments weighed against. One is the shift of responsibilities, as many in the community came to believe that liquidation risks were not properly explained on the Oasis front end, which is maintained by the Maker Foundation. Quote, some MKR holders may have felt it wasn't their responsibility to pay, even if they were sympathetic to vaults, Monet Supply added. The other aggravating factor is that the class action lawsuit launched by the liquidation victims against the Maker Foundation. Quote, if MakerDAO approved compensation, what's to stop vaults from accepting these funds while still participating in the Maker Foundation lawsuit? Monet Supply nevertheless lamented a certain lack of transparency in Maker governance. Unlike some newer systems like Compound, there are no indications as to who is behind a particular MKR address. Quote, it's really tough to read the room with anonymous voters, they said. While they didn't argue for de-anonymization, better tracking of wallets across proposals and protocols to understand where power is held, quote, will be super interesting, they concluded. As long as the number of different projects are expanding in this space, I don't really see it as a persistent threat. Some individuals and some groups will try and rush to the front of any kind of proposal or whatever coming forward in efforts to try and capitalize on it and of course make money for themselves. However, at some point or another, their threat aversion will go down enough that they end up getting wrecked. And they kind of lose a little bit of objectivity as far as what they're willing to invest in. And this leads to all kinds of other issues. And this is one of the problems that I've always had with things like stablecoins. The idea that there is some sort of market mechanism in place out there somewhere that can 100% fucking guess the market in its sentiment between one or more tokens and be able to provide you with a consistent level value. If the US dollar loses purchasing power, so does your stable coin. And so its stableness is only in relative terms to the rest of the market. And this is where I have a problem with stablecoins, because again, if the US dollar is losing value, so is your fucking stablecoin. And it doesn't matter if it's USDC or USDT or any of that other bullshit. If when I take it to Walmart, it only buys $1 worth of monetary value in whatever it is I'm buying, if what I'm buying is 15% less volume and 10% more in monetary price than I was paying last week, it's going to be the same if I'm paying it in US dollars or USDT or USDC. I'm conferred no value. However, if I'd retained the monetary value in, say, Dogecoin, I probably would have received an appreciation in value versus if I were to be pairing it against, say, US dollars or USDT, if I were valuing it in Bitcoin. You know, if it went up in relative terms against Bitcoin and Bitcoin went up in relative terms against US dollars, that makes Doge a much more valuable thing to be holding that monetary value in at that time. You know, and I mean, I have managed to maintain, to some extent, the monetary value of my portfolio, but it was fucking chicken shit to begin with, so it's not like I had a whole lot to put up in all that. But, you know, I've done it by moving it around. You know, and again, according to what I perceive anyway, to be of greater value to me. You know, whether it be US dollars or Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency, Verge, Monero, Doge. You know, if I saw a point where I thought it was going to be more advantageous to maintain the funds in one or another, that's where it went to. You know, but I don't believe that a bot could simulate the way that I analyze stuff, because I look at stuff at really long durations, and I'm sure you can set the thresholds of your bot and all that, but I don't know, the market isn't really predictable. You know, I mean, I get my shit wrong all the time. But most of the time that I do get things wrong, it's because I'm second guessing myself and over trading. You know, you got to have a little bit of faith in what you're doing. Otherwise, what's the point of doing it, right? But I don't think that you can put some sort of algorithm in there that's going to guarantee, no matter what, that your USDT circulated on the fucking Ethereum blockchain is always going to be available, is always going to be as valuable as it currently is, so on and so forth. You ventured, when you venture into that kind of thinking with regard to your monetary value over the long term, you can see where it's of less advantage to you to be using multiple layers. You know, like you run into something like that happened recently, and I don't know to what extent it's still happening, but on the Ethereum network, the fucking fees are just going through the roof. Gas fees are just going through the fucking roof, and people are still paying them. And as long as they do pay them, I mean, that's cool and all. But to me, that says that the space is at such a high value that there's a lot of potential for fuckery there. I mean, I don't know how to put it properly, in that I think over the longer term you're going to see where these positions of transitioning from one coin to another and whatnot, that it's going to be dominated by banks and legacy holders. Now, for what duration it's actually held that way, I don't think it'll be all that long, because they'll end up losing money over the longer term. You know, again, there's this problem of the fact that we can continually generate new coins and new asset types. And because we're at that point with regard to money, that we trust the existing vehicles so little that we're willing to put some value in shit that some kid just created and deployed. I mean, come on now. It shows a level of desperation in the markets that really isn't healthy. But, you know, the fact of the matter is that no matter what, there's always going to be entities where it comes to money, that are just out to rip you off. And then again, there are entities out there that actually intend to fulfill on their promises. And while that number may be a lot fewer in in size than those that are out there to scam you, they do exist. And because they do exist, we're going to stay ahead of the game, I think. Or at least the possibility to stay ahead of the game is always going to be there. And I wanted to take another step back here on this Maker thing, though, because it seems like there's been some flip-flop between the votes. So let's check this thing out. This was on Cointelegraph.com. It was by Colin Post. So yes, penis. And this one was authored on April 14th, 2020. So again, a little step back, but it'll give us a little clarity on the stuff that's happening now. MakerDAO Foundation faces new lawsuit demanding $28 million for Black Thursday liquidations. A new class action lawsuit against DeFi giant Maker Foundation alleges that the company misrepresented the risks investors in the ecosystem faced, leading to catastrophic losses of collateral on MakerDAO on March 12th. The allegations and who stands to gain. The complaint, which was filed in the Northern District Court of California on April 14th, accuses 3 entities affiliated with Maker of negligence and intentional misrepresentation before investors or, quote, collateralized debt position holders. According to the complaint, collateralized debt position holders lost $8.325 million when the value of Ethereum that Maker held in collateral plummeted relative to the dollar-pegged stablecoin DAI, in which those loans were held. The risk of such a scenario was not clear to these investors, the complaint alleges, further criticizing Maker's advertised decentralization. Quote, while misrepresenting to CDP holders the actual risks they faced, the Maker Foundation neglected its responsibilities to its investors by either fostering or at the very least, allowing the conditions that led to Black Thursday, all after activity soliciting millions of dollars of investment into its ecosystem. The complaint asks for a minimum of $8.325 million in compensation and $20 million in punitive damages. Black Thursday for Maker and new class action suits. As Cointelegraph reported, the collapse of Ethereum's price led to some lots of the token being sold for free in major debt auctions, as well as discussions about whether to shut off Maker's liquidation bots. Speaking to Cointelegraph, the lead attorney for the plaintiff, Adam Heder of Harris Byrne Christensen, declined to comment on the fate of Maker should the judge side with the class. Heder also denied any relationship to a rash of class actions filed in New York at the beginning of April against a who's who of major crypto firms. Yeah. Man. You know, this is the kind of thing that I warn against, is just don't put your money in that kind of shit. I mean, there's all this desire to get free of centralized systems, and that's a good one. But I believe that the desire to invest your trust in the process of doing that in somebody else should be avoided at all costs. Wherever possible, take responsibility for it yourself. Whether that is hosting a live wallet for any kind of currency, whether it be Bitcoin or Ethereum or anything like that. Try and be an active participant. There's all kinds of ways that you can participate in the health and the breadth of the network and get compensated for it. Because of that, there's really no excuse for investing in this really scary shit. But just to let you know that you're not alone in this desire for ROI and the temptation to trust other people in helping you get it, I got this other article here. It's on Cointelegraph, and this one is again by Colin Post. And this is authored on June 24th, 2020. And Bank for International Settlements calls CBDCs a potential sea change. In advance of its coming annual report on June 24th, the Bank of International Settlements released a special chapter from that report on digital payments, especially central bank digital currencies, a topic that's attracted tremendous interest in recent months. The report encourages central banks to treat CBDCs as their futures, saying, quote, "One option at the frontier of policy opportunities is the issuance of CBDCs, which could amount to a sea change. A recent shift in favor of CBDCs. The BIS found that there had been a major bullish shift in sentiment for CBDCs since the beginning of this year, as measured by speeches referring to them positively or negatively." Let's see here. And net negative, it would seem. The COVID-19 pandemic has factored into this shift, the report says, citing increasing precautionary holdings of cash, commerce moving online, and the fact that, quote, "public concerns about viral transmission from cash have arisen." Yeah, it's not going to mean shit. Given the quantitative easing injections all over the world looking to stimulate economies in crisis, the report's statement that, quote, "today the central bank's role is as important as ever, if not more so," seems especially apt. Libra, China, and the global competition. Facebook's Libra looms large in this shift. The stablecoin fell afoul of regulators immediately after its white paper came out, a relationship that the Libra Association has been taking pains to mend in recent months. During a press conference for the release, Benoit Courier, an economic advisor with BIS, confirmed that, quote, "Libra, as we often say, was a wake-up call for the global community." Courier, however, denied that he had seen evidence of what some are calling an arms race for a CBDC, especially between China and the US. Quote, "I don't think there's a race, really," Courier said. "At this stage, we just want to learn from what the others are doing." Hyun Sung Shin, head of BIS Innovation Hub, also emphasized uses of CBDCs internally rather than internationally. Quote, "It's mostly about the safety and efficiency of domestic payments as well as financial inclusion. I think the international dimension does get a lot of coverage, but for the moment it varies from what we know in terms of design features and actual uses." Blockchain and CBDCs. As many have noted, a CBDC does not necessarily depend on blockchain technology. However, the concerns presented in BIS's report highlight a long-standing use case, that is, the importance of being able to replicate some of the best components of cash. Quote, "Technically, a successful retail CBDC would need to provide a resilient and inclusive digital complement to physical cash. As such, a CBDC must have all the features and more that make cash so attractive. The basic elements are trust in the issuing entity, legal tender status, guaranteed real-time finality, and wide availability." Benoit Courier confirmed to Cointelegraph that distributed ledger technology is on the table, but was somewhat evasive as to what that entailed, saying that, quote, "That's exactly part of the discussions we're having to identify technical solutions. Moreover, he avoided addressing the difference between privacy enforced by law, which plays prominently in the report, and privacy enforced by technological capabilities, which does not. Apparently, they kind of imagine that we're all just going to use CBDCs and we're not going to reject them. And the problem is that there is nothing to make you choose one coin over another. That decision is exclusively yours. I mean, I carry a portfolio of multiple coins. And again, not to say it's worth anything, but the point being that I don't just hold one coin. I have multiple different coins because I want to take advantage of any appreciation of value any of them experiences and not leave myself out. That being the power that's held in the hands of every single human being on this planet is what keeps me hopeful about crypto. Because there are more people awakening into crypto as they look out at the fiat landscape and they see what their local currencies are supporting, and they can see deficiencies in it. They themselves, they're not fucking economists. They're just they're retail people, They conduct retail commerce and they can see it in their commerce. And when they can see it, the difference between financially literate and financially illiterate just goes away. And the threshold really isn't all that high to understand this stuff. It's just a matter of will and circumstance. And placed in certain circumstances where it's actually necessary for you to learn, you will learn. I really believe that things like cryptocurrencies and even personal flight, that aeronautics and mechanics and all that other stuff, that stuff, that's what we should be teaching our kids in high school. Not just history, not just philosophy, not just literature, not just mathematics, but practical applications of these things. We're matching value across what is said and what actually expresses, or what can actually express in the market. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down with some music, or throw back down with some music, that is. But where to go? I think this one describes exactly what they had in mind, but you gotta keep in mind that this desire for a secondary kind of caste system where, the vast majority of us are serving the interests of a very, very tiny few of us, that you have to contrast that with the freedoms and capabilities being enabled by the internet and cryptocurrencies. And you start to understand that these two realities are almost certainly certain, but not at all compatible. And so what the likely outcome will be, I couldn't tell you, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to be this. And so here it is, System of a Down, Prison Song, here on Coin Metal. Well, I was going to let that run out. That was Textures Defying Gravity. But unfortunately, we are pretty much out of time for the evening. Thank you very much for listening. I certainly do appreciate the support. We will be back again on Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so until then, I want y'all to trade safe, do your homework, and watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else is going to do it for you. And so as far as our last dance is concerned, again, as usual, I didn't pick one out, but I do have one in mind. And so I think I'm going to navigate us on over that. And so here it is. A little bit of Slayer to round out the week. Dissident Aggressor, Last Dance, here on Coin Metal. Thank you again for listening, and y'all have an excellent weekend. Good night.